The Outer Rim colony of Ridden 3 was usually silent at night. People slept early because the planet's twin moons made the desert cold and dangerous after dark. But that night, the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy. It felt like something was watching from the shadows. Ethan, a young human mechanic, walked alone toward his small home after finishing a long shift at the repair docks. His back hurt, his hands were dusty with engine oil, and all he wanted was food and sleep. Life on this planet was simple but hard, and Ethan had learned to never expect surprises here. But tonight, a surprise was waiting for him as he crossed an empty street. He heard a soft, shaky sound, most like a whimper. At first, he thought it was just the wind passing through broken pipes. But then he heard it again, clear this time. The sound of crying. Ethan stopped walking. The sound was coming from the direction of an old storage warehouse. The building had been abandoned for years. Nobody went there anymore, not even thieves. Curious and slightly worried, Ethan slowly walked toward the noise. The cold wind brushed against his neck as he stepped into the dark alley beside the warehouse. There, near a pile of scrap metal, he saw something move. He paused, letting his eyes adjust to the dim blue moonlight. Two small shapes were huddled together, shivering. At first, he thought they were stray animals, until one of them lifted its head and looked at him with large, glowing eyes. Alien eyes. Ethan froze. The creatures were not animals. They were children's two small alien kids, no older than 8 or 9 in human years. Their skin was a pale silver blue, their hair thin and white like frost, and their clothes torn and dirty. They were shaking, both from fear and from hunger. The older one stared at Ethan with wide, frightened eyes. The younger one hid behind a rusted crate. Clutching the older sibling's arm, Ethan stepped closer, careful not to make sudden movements. "Hey, it's okay," he whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." The older child swallowed hard. Peas. "Don't call the soldiers." Ethan felt a sting in his chest. These two were terrified. Something terrible must have happened to them. "I won't call anyone," he said softly. "Are you both hungry?" The children hesitated, but their weak bodies said the truth. Ethan slowly reached into his bag and pulled out a half-eaten protein bar and a small water flask. Instead of giving it directly, he placed the food on the ground and stepped back. The older child grabbed it first. Their hands were trembling so badly that they dropped the bar twice. The younger one crawled forward, eyes locked on the food like it was the most precious thing in the galaxy. Within seconds, they were eating desperately, stuffing small pieces into their mouths as if scared someone would take it away. Ethan watched silently. Nobody should be this hungry. "How long have you been out here?" he asked gently. The older child paused, wiping their mouth with the back of their hand. 3, maybe 4 days. "We don't know." "Where are your parents?" Ethan asked. For a moment, neither child spoke. Then the younger one whispered, voice cracking, "Gone. Lost. Everything burned." The older one quickly pulled them close, as if to protect them from the memory. Ethan knelt down beside them. "You're safe now. My house is close. You can rest there." The older child's eyes widened in fear. "No, soldiers are looking everywhere. If they find us, they will take us away." The child's voice lowered. "Or worse, they might hurt you." Ethan felt a chill. What kind of children were these? Why were soldiers searching for them? Still, he couldn't leave them in the cold. "You don't have to stay long," Ethan said softly. "Just for one night." "You're freezing." The older child stared at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Ethan led them through side streets to avoid patrol drones. The children walked close to him, flinching every time they heard distant engines. Their fear was real deep, painful, and heavy when they reached Ethan's small house. The children stopped at the door. The older one whispered, "Why are you helping us?" Ethan shrugged gently. "Because you need help. And because you're just kids." The older child exchanged a glance with the younger one. Then stepped inside. Ethan warmed some soup and gave them blankets. They ate quietly, eyes darting around the room as if expecting danger to break through the walls at any second. After a while, the younger child asked in a timid voice, "Can we sleep here?" "Yes," Ethan replied. "You're safe." But just as he said that, the night sky outside flashed with a strange, lightning-like burst. A deep rumble shook the ground. The older child froze. Their eyes widened with recognition and fear. "She's here." The child whispered shakily, "Mother is here." Ethan blinked. "Your mother." The older child nodded slowly. "She's the most powerful woman in the galaxy." And Ethan realized whatever he had stepped into tonight was far bigger than he could ever imagine. Ethan barely slept that night. The older child's final words kept echoing in his mind. Mother is here, and she is the most powerful woman in the galaxy. It sounded impossible. It sounded like the kind of story smugglers told in bars. But the fear in the child's voice was real. The children were sleeping on his couch now, wrapped in blankets. The younger one curled into a tiny ball, while the older one sat half awake, as if afraid to fully rest. Ethan sat on a chair near them, trying to understand everything. Why would the mother of these children, whoever she was, come to this small dust planet? Why were soldiers searching? Why were these kids starving on the street? He didn't have answers. But he could feel it. Something big was coming. The storm above his dawn began to rise. A strange hum shook the walls. Ethan went outside to check, and the sight made him freeze. A massive energy storm swirled high in the sky, sharp red and violet lightning twisting unnaturally. It wasn't a weather pattern. It looked like the atmosphere was being torn open. The older child suddenly appeared beside him. "Why died? She's close," the child whispered. "Mother can track our blood anywhere, even across star systems." Ethan turned to them. "Who is she really?" The child looked down. "We are not allowed to say." Ethan knelt beside them. "You can trust me." For the first time, the older child's eyes softened. They looked scared, but also tired of carrying the secret alone. "My mother rules the Crimson Dominion," the child said quietly. "It is the largest empire in the galaxy." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. That empire was known by every human. Their armies could crush planets. Their fleets could silence entire civilizations. And their leader, their empress, was rumored to be unstoppable, and you too are. The child finished the sentence for him, her heirs. Ethan stood speechless. 2 royal children, sleeping on his couch. Children whose mother commanded millions of soldiers, planets, and fleets. Children who were hiding on a small colony, starving in the cold. Nothing made sense. The hunter's Ethan's shock was broken by distant engine noise. He stepped outside and saw dropships in the sky, dark, sharp-edged, moving like shadows. "Who are they?" Ethan asked. The older child's face went pale. "The hunters. They don't serve the Empress anymore. They want to control the throne. And they were chasing you." Ethan asked. The child nodded. "If they capture us, Mother will destroy entire sectors to find us. To stop a war." We hid. Ethan felt the weight of their words. He wasn't just helping lost children. He had stepped into a political storm bigger than anything he could imagine. A knock on the door suddenly. There was a hard knock at Ethan's door, 3 sharp bangs that made the children gasp. Ethan whispered, "Hide, now." He rushed them toward a small hidden storage space under the stairs. The children crawled inside silently, clutching each other. Another knock. Stronger. Ethan closed the storage door and walked toward the main entrance, forcing his heartbeat to slow. He opened the door only slightly. A tall alien soldier in matte black armor stood outside, visor glowing red. "We are scanning for fugitives," the soldier said. "Open your home." Ethan stayed calm. "Just me here." The soldier lifted a scanner. A red beam swept across the room. Ethan felt his pulse race, praying the device wouldn't detect the children. The scanner beeped, then turned green. "No anomaly detected," the soldier said, just as he turned to leave. Ethan heard the younger child sneeze faintly from the storage room. The soldier snapped back, eyes narrowing. What was that sound? Ethan's heart dropped. He forced a casual laugh. "My heater. It's old. Makes weird noises." The soldier stared at him for several seconds, then finally stepped away. But before leaving completely, he whispered into his communicator, "Continue searching. The Empress is approaching." The moment he said the word Empress, every soldier on the street stiffened. Ethan shut the door quickly and opened the storage space. The children were trembling. "A warning too late, you saved us again," the older child whispered. "But now, it's too late." Ethan frowned. "Too late for what?" The child swallowed hard. "When Mother arrives, she will sense us instantly, and she will destroy anything that stands between her and us." Ethan blinked. "Destroy? You mean yes?" the child whispered. "Everything, and everyone." A sudden boom shook the ground. The windows flashed red as if the sun exploded. The air itself vibrated. The mother had arrived. The most powerful woman in the galaxy had come for her children, and Ethan was standing right between them. The ground of Ridden 3 trembled again, stronger this time. It felt like the planet itself was holding its breath. Ethan peeked through the window. The sky was no longer its usual dusty orange. Now it glowed with a dark red swirl that covered the horizon, almost like a wound in space. The Empress was close. Too close. Behind him, the alien children stood huddled together, their eyes wide, their small bodies tense with fear. The older child whispered, "Mother is entering the lower atmosphere." The younger added, "When she lands, nothing will stay hidden." Ethan swallowed. He had no idea what that meant. But the fear in the children's shaky voices was enough to tell him it wasn't good. Then the sound came. A deep, metallic roar filled the colony almost like 1,000 engines igniting at once. Ethan stepped outside to see what was happening. That's when he saw them. The hunters, more dropships, were descending, forming a circle around the colony. Their black holes glowed with crimson lights, and their engines hummed with deadly precision. Dozens of soldiers marched out in unison, their armor gleaming like sharpened stone. Their helmets had no face openings, just a red slit that glowed menacingly. The entire colony fell silent. People rushed inside their homes, closing windows, locking doors, turning off lights. Nobody wanted to catch the attention of the hunters. Ethan ducked back inside. Just as another squad moved through the street. "They're surrounding us," he said. The older child nodded. They were waiting. They knew she would come here. The younger child squeezed their sibling's hand. "They want to take us before she arrives." Ethan felt his stomach twist. "Why?" the older child spoke softly. "Because if they control us, they control her." Ethan understood instantly. These weren't just royal children, they were keys. Keys to unimaginable power. Before he could say anything, there was a heavy metallic thud on Ethan's door. Boom, boom, boom. The children jumped, clinging to each other. A cold robotic voice echoed from outside. Human male. "Open the door. We have detected unauthorized life signs." Ethan's heart raced. Someone must have seen the kids earlier. He whispered urgently under the floor. Now, the older child grabbed the younger and slid under the loose floorboard Ethan had pried open earlier. They curled silently in the small space. Ethan placed the board back just as the pounding grew louder. Boom. Final warning. Ethan opened the door only halfway. A tall hunter stood there, towering over him. Behind the soldier, two more waited, weapons glowing with a faint red pulse. "Step aside," the hunter commanded. Ethan forced a confused look. "What's going on?" "I'm just trying to sleep." "Why are you knocking on every house?" The hunter raised a scanner. A red light swept across the room. Ethan felt sweat pool on his back. After a moment, the scanner beeped, reading unstable. The hunter said. Ethan's heart dropped. Then a thunderous vibration shook the street. As if a giant ship was descending nearby, every hunter twisted sharply toward the sky. "She's here." One said. Another replied, "We must move fast." "Secure the airs." The hunter at Ethan's door shoved past him. The floorboard creaked. The children held their breath. The hunter took one more step. And then a voice echoed across the colony, deep, powerful, and shaking the very air. "Stand down." The hunters froze. Every soldier stopped moving. Even Ethan felt the command inside his bones. It wasn't just sound. It was authority made physical. The red energy storm above cracked open with a blinding light. A colossal warship, shaped like a blade of burning metal, broke through the clouds. The shockwave rattled. Buildings and sent dust flying across the streets. The hunters stared upward in fear. The hunter commander whispered, almost trembling, "She has arrived, in full power." Ethan looked at the children under the floorboard. Their eyes were full of hope and terror at the same time. The older child whispered, "Mother is angry." Another shockwave hit the colony. Windows shattered. Dust clouds rose. People screamed. The hunters scrambled to reorganize. Ethan backed away as the hunter in his house turned toward the exit. Gripping his weapon tightly, he growled, "Find the heirs before she senses them." But they were too late. A blinding beam of red energy shot down from the warship, striking the ground outside like a pillar of lightning out of the smoke. A tall figure stepped forward, silhouetted in burning red light. The Empress, the most powerful woman in the galaxy, and she was coming straight toward Ethan's home. Asterisk. The moment the Empress stepped out of the burning red beam, the entire colony seemed to stop breathing. She walked forward slowly, each step making the ground pulse with energy. Her armor was dark crimson, as if forged from starlight and war. Strange symbols glowed along her cloak, shifting like living fire. Her eyes were the most terrifying, part bright silver, glowing like two small suns. No one dared look directly at her. No one dared move. Even the hunters, who minutes ago had been kicking down doors, suddenly stepped back in fear as she passed. Their glowing helmets dimmed, as if bowing in her presence. Ethan watched from his doorway, frozen. She wasn't just powerful. She was something else, something ancient, unstoppable, and overwhelming. He felt like a tiny grain of sand standing before a roaring cosmic storm. The Empress's voice echoed across the colony. "Where are my children?" The air shook. Doors rattled. Every hunter stiffened inside the floorboard hiding spot. The children trembled. The younger one whispered, "She's angry. More than we have ever seen." The older one pressed a finger to their lips. "Wait, do not move yet." But Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He stepped forward, his heart pounding like a drum. The Empress's eyes snapped to him instantly. Her gaze felt like a blade pressed to his throat. He raised his hands slowly, trying not to look threatening. I think I know where they are." A wave of silence fell over the soldiers. Every hunter turned their head. Even the wind seemed to stop. The Empress took a single step toward him. The earth cracked under her heel. "Human," she said, voice cold enough to freeze blood, "you will speak carefully." Ethan nodded quickly. "They're safe. I hid them from the hunters." Her eyes narrowed. "You hid my children." Her tone was unreadable. Was it anger? Shock? Suspicion? Two hunters raised their weapons at Ethan, but the Empress lifted a hand. They stopped instantly, as if a single gesture from her outweighed their entire existence. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Would a human risk his life for two strangers?" Ethan swallowed. "Because they were starving, scared, alone. They're just kids." The Empress stared at him for a long, silent moment. A breeze passed. Dust swirled around her cloak like a living veil. Then, unexpectedly, her expression softened, only slightly. But it was enough to make every hunter flinch in confusion. "Bring them out," she commanded. Ethan took a deep breath and knelt to lift the floorboard. Two small faces peeked out, terrified, but relieved the moment the Empress saw them. The impossible happened. Her glowing eyes melted with emotion. Her armor dimmed. Her shoulders loosened. She rushed forward faster than Ethan thought possible and dropped to her knees, pulling both children into her arms. "My stars. My little ones. I felt your fear across half the galaxy." The younger child clung to her chest and began to cry. The older one wrapped their arms around her neck. "Mother, we thought they would take us away." The Empress held them even tighter, a tremble in her breath. "I would burn worlds before letting that happen." Ethan watched in shock. Minutes ago, she looked like a goddess of war. Now she looked like a grieving parent reunited with her children. The hunters didn't know what to do. Some stepped back. Others bowed. None spoke. Finally, the Empress rose, one child on each side of her. Her eyes turned back to Ethan, no longer glowing with anger, but with something else: respect. She walked closer, towering over him again. "You saved the heirs of the Crimson Throne," she said softly. "You hid them. You protected them. You fed them." Ethan felt small under her stare. Anyone would have done the same. "No," the Empress replied. "Very few would risk death for strangers. Even fewer would defy hunters." A silence stretched between them. Then, to everyone's shock, the Empress bowed her head to Ethan. The hunters' helmets flickered in disbelief. Ethan nearly fell backward. A bow. From the ruler of the galaxy to him. "I owe you a life debt, human," she said. "A debt that cannot be repaid lightly." Ethan blinked. "I didn't do it for reward." "I know," she whispered. "That is why the debt is real." She turned to her soldiers, eyes turning sharp again. "Hunters." Every armored soldier dropped to one knee. "You threatened my children. You hunted them. You failed to protect what is mine." Her voice deepened, shaking the ground. "Your punishment is coming." The hunters trembled. The Empress raised her hand theatrically, but the older child grabbed her wrist. "Mother." "Stop. Not here. Not in front of him." Her gaze softened at once. "As you wish." She faced Ethan again. "You will come with us. It is not a request. It is protection." Ethan's heart pounded. Protection, or something far more dangerous. Either way, his life had changed forever. Ethan had never stepped inside any royal ship before, but the moment he entered the Empress's flagship, he felt like he had walked into another universe. The air hummed softly with advanced energy. The hallways glowed with crimson light. Strange symbols floated along the walls like living sketches, shifting in and out of reality. Two elite guards escorted him, silent, tall, and armored in silver instead of black. Their presence alone made Ethan nervous. Every few steps, one of them glanced at him as if he was something incredibly fragile or incredibly important. The Empress walked ahead, holding her children close, her steps graceful and controlled. Every soldier they passed bowed deeply. Some even knelt fully. Heads lowered, not one dared look directly at her. But Ethan noticed something strange. Every few moments, the Empress turned slightly, checking if Ethan was still following. It wasn't suspicion. It felt like concern. Finally, they entered a huge chamber, half throne room, half war center. Stars floated in holographic spirals. Battle maps shimmered. A massive window showed the planet below. The Empress gestured to a seat. "Sit, human." Ethan hesitated. No one sat near an empress. Before he could speak, the older child tugged his sleeve. "It's okay. Mother wants to thank you." The younger child climbed onto Ethan's lap without warning, curling up quietly as if they belonged there. The Empress watched the scene carefully. Something soft flickered for a moment in her eyes. Then she spoke. "The truth behind the chaos, my name," she began. Her voice, strong but steady, "is Seraphia, Valkyrian Empress of the Crimson Dominion." Ethan swallowed. He had heard that name in stories since childhood. She continued, "My children carry the royal sigils. Traitors within my own circle learned this. They wanted the throne, and thought eliminating my heirs would weaken me." The younger child shivered at her words. "But they underestimated me," the Empress said coldly. "And they underestimated fate for bringing you to them." Ethan tried to process her words. So, they were running from the traitors. "Running," she repeated softly. "My children's royal blood reduced to hiding in streets, starving." Her voice cracked not with weakness, but with pain. "I felt their fear tearing at my mind. I felt their hunger. I nearly lost them." Ethan didn't know what to say. He had never seen someone so powerful show such vulnerability. The Empress stepped closer, staring directly into his eyes. "You fed my children when I could not reach them. You hid them at the risk of your own life. You lied to the hunters to protect them." Her voice softened, barely above a whisper. "You did what my own empire failed to do." Ethan looked down. "Anyone with a heart would help to kids." "Wrong," she said instantly. "Most would turn away. Most would fear hunters. But you acted." A long silence followed. Then the Empress did something that shocked every guard in the room. She knelt. Before Ethan, the guards stiffened in disbelief. No one had ever seen their Empress kneel. Her head lowered in respect, as Empress of the Crimson Dominion. She said, "I bind a life debt to you, Ethan Thorne of Earth." Ethan's mouth fell open. "Please, there's no need for that." "There is," she said. "A life debt is sacred. It means my power, my armies, my throne. Stand behind you." The older child nodded proudly. "She never gives life debts. Never." The younger one whispered, "You are one of us now." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had lived a simple life his whole existence. Now the rulers of the galaxy were bowing to him. It felt unreal, terrifying, overwhelming. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. The Empress stood again. Her gaze was sharp, determined. "You will be protected. For the traitors who hunted my children will soon turn their eyes to you." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Why me?" "Because you touched the air mark when you saved them," she said. "It links you. They will sense it. They will want to erase any connection, so your enemies will target me." The Empress nodded slowly. "Until I remove every threat." Ethan leaned back, stunned. This was too much. He had only wanted to help 2 starving kids. Now he was tied to the most feared leader in the galaxy. The Empress placed her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was surprisingly gentle. "You are not alone," she said. "My children trust you." "And so do I." Behind her, The ship's alarms suddenly blared. A red hologram flashed across the room. Incoming hostile fleet. Traitor signatures. Detected. Boarding attempt imminent. The Empress's expression snapped into cold fury. They dare attack while my children are in my arms. Her glowing eyes darkened with rage. Stay with them, Ethan, she commanded. If danger reaches this room, you defend them. I will crush the traitors myself. The lights flickered. Explosions shook the hull. The children clung to Ethan, and the Empress stepped into the storm of battle, her power erupting like a star reborn. Asterisk. The entire flagship shook like a living beast hit by a giant hammer. Lights flickered. The floor trembled. Sirens echoed through every hallway. Ethan instinctively grabbed both alien children, pulling them close as dust fell from the ceiling. The older child whispered, "They're here." The traitor fleet found us. Outside the massive window, Ethan saw dozens, maybe hundreds of ships surrounding them. Sleek black hulls, silver spikes, crimson engines blazing. They moved in formation like wolves hunting injured prey. The flagship was strong. But against a fleet this size? Ethan's stomach twisted. The Empress stood at the center of the war room, her cloak swirling like fire around her. Her children watched her with wide, fearful eyes. She lifted a hand, and the entire room fell silent, and though alarms were blaring. "Listen," she said quietly. The guards straightened. Ethan froze. The children held their breath. Another explosion rocked the ship, but the Empress didn't move an inch. Then she whispered, calm and cold, "They do not want a battle. They want my children." Her voice sent chills down Ethan's spine. The older child pressed closer to Ethan. She knows what they're thinking. The Empress turned toward Ethan, her glowing eyes sharp. "Stay with them. Do not leave this room. If anyone enters without my permission, you protect them with your life." Ethan nodded. "I will." The younger child clung to his shirt, tiny fingers trembling. "Don't go far." The Empress's expression softened for a single heartbeat. She touched both children's foreheads gently, then her entire presence shifted. Warmth vanished. Love faded, and power raw. Crushing, terrifying erupted from her like a storm. Breaking free, the lights around her flickered red as if bowing to her energy. Then she spoke. This time not to Ethan, but to every soldier on the ship. "Crimson Dominion, prepare for war." The battle begins, the flagship's cannons activated with a deafening roar. Crimson beams shot through space, tearing enemy ships apart. Shockwaves rippled across the void. The traitors returned fire. Dozens of blasts hammered the flagship's shields. Metal groaned. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The room trembled violently. Ethan shielded the kids with his arms. The older one whispered, "She's fighting them all at once. But there are too many." The Empress opened her palms. Red energy surged like living flame. 2 guards stepped beside her, activating defense barriers. The floor beneath her feet glowed with ancient symbols. The Empress raised her hands and unleashed a wave of power that shook the entire ship. Outside, a massive shockwave burst from the flagship, scattering enemy fighters like dust in a storm. Ethan's jaw dropped. He had never seen anything so powerful, so unstoppable. But the traitors weren't done. Multiple enemy ships latched onto the hull with magnetic claws. Boarding parties. Ethan felt his heart race. They're coming inside. The children gripped him tightly. The room doors sealed automatically. Locking with heavy bolts, 2 elite guards stood in front of the entrance. Weapons humming. "Nothing gets through this door," one guard said, but even he sounded unsure. The breach, a deep thud, echoed through the hallway. Then another. Then a third, louder, closer, faster. The door began to melt. Ethan pulled the children behind a large console. "Stay low." The guards aimed their weapons. With a final blast, the door shattered inward, spraying molten metal everywhere. 5 traitor soldiers stormed in. Black armor glowing blue, their elite assassins. Their leader pointed at Ethan. At the human, the Empress values him. Ethan's blood froze. They weren't just after the children, they were after him too. The guards attacked first, blocking the path. The room erupted into chaos blaster fire, sparks, exploding consoles. Ethan ducked low, pulling the children under a metal table. The older child pressed a hand to Ethan's arm. "There's a weapon behind you." Ethan turned. A fallen guard's pulse blade lay on the ground. Still glowing, he grabbed it. Another explosion hit the ship, shaking everything. A traitor soldier broke through the guards and charged toward them. "Stay behind me," Ethan shouted. The soldier raised his weapon. Ethan swung the pulse blade with all his strength. A flash. A crackle. The soldier collapsed. The children gasped. "You protected us." "Again?" the older one said, but there was no time to breathe. More soldiers forced their way in. The Empress returns just as a traitor soldier reached them. Ready to fire, the room turned red. A pulse of energy slammed into the traitors, throwing them backward like rag dolls. The Empress appeared in the doorway. Her armor cracked, her hair wild, her eyes blazing like collapsing stars. She looked furious, not angry. Not angry at all. Rage, pure, cosmic rage. The floor trembled as her power spread through the room. "You dared," she whispered. Her voice shook the metal. "You dared enter this room. You dared point weapons at my children. You dared threaten the human who saved them." Her power erupted, and every traitor soldier in the room disintegrated. Into crimson dust, Ethan shielded the children as the shockwave passed over them. When it cleared, the Empress stood breathing hard, fury dripping from her aura. But her eyes softened when she saw Ethan alive. "You kept them safe," she said, "just as I knew you would." She knelt beside the children, hugging them tightly. But the war wasn't over. Outside the window, more enemy fleets arrived. The final battle was coming, and Tetham, a simple mechanic, was now standing at the center of a war that would change the galaxy. Asterisk. The enemy fleet grew in number, more and more dark ships warping into orbit like a swarm of shadows. Through the shattered window of the war room, Ethan watched the sky fill with hostile lights. It felt like the entire galaxy was pressing down on them. The Empress stood in front of Ethan and the children, her cloak rippling with raw energy. She was breathing hard, fighting. An entire fleet alone was taking its toll, even for someone like her. But her eyes were fierce, refusing to back down. The older child touched her arm. "Mother, you're hurt." The Empress gave a small smile. "A little pain is nothing. Not when my family is at stake." The younger child looked at Ethan and whispered, "Ethan stays with us, right?" Ethan nodded, even though fear twisted his gut. "I'm not going anywhere." Outside, the traitor ships began charging a massive cannon, gathering enough energy to pierce the Empress's flagship, a weapon meant to kill her. The ship's alarms screamed. Louder, Empire Breaker cannon charging, impact imminent. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. If that weapon fired, the flagship would be torn apart. Everyone would die. The Empress saw the rising fear in the children's eyes and knew she had only seconds to act. She turned to Ethan. "Take them to the refuge chamber. It's shielded from everything." But the older child shook their head violently. "No, we're not leaving you." The Empress closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, choosing her next words carefully. "My children, I will not fall today. I promise you." A crack of thunder tore across the sky. The cannon was almost ready. Ethan felt it. This was the moment everything changed. He stepped forward. "Tell me what to do. I'm not a soldier, but I won't just stand here." The Empress looked at him not as a ruler looking at a subject, but as a mother trusting a guardian. "There is one thing," she said. "The cannon core has a weakness, focusing crystal at the front. If it breaks, the entire weapon collapses." Ethan blinked. "Break it how?" "With what?" She extended her hand, and a small crystalline device materialized, glowing red. "This is a quantum disruptor," she said. "Only a non-royal can use it without triggering alarms. You must get close to the cannon and attach it." Ethan's throat tightened. She wasn't sending guards. She wasn't sending soldiers. She was trusting him. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because my enemies expect my power," she said. "But they will never expect you." Her words felt like a spark deep inside him. For the first time, he understood this wasn't just about saving himself, or the children, or the Empress. This was about saving entire worlds. He took the disruptor and nodded. "I'll do it." Before he could move, the Empress placed her hand on his cheeks, something no one had ever seen her do to anyone. "You have already changed their lives," she whispered. "Now you will change mine." Ethan turned toward the docking corridor. He grabbed a small maneuver sled, strapped himself in, and launched toward the enemy cannon under the cover of debris and smoke. The Empress watched him go, her heart tightening not with fear, but with trust. The final Gumlasan sled shot toward the cannon like a silent arrow. Enemy ships flew past him, focused on attacking the flagship to notice one tiny human. The massive cannon towered ahead, glowing bright, humming with catastrophic energy. The disruptor pulsed in Ethan's hand. He whispered, "For the kids. For everyone." He slammed the disruptor onto the crystal, deafening. Crack filled the void. The crystal fractured. The cannon flickered, shook, then exploded into a wave of blue fire. The shockwave almost knocked Ethan unconscious. His sled spun wildly, alarms blaring. The traitor fleet fell into chaos as their greatest weapon was destroyed. The Empress's WRATH back on the flagship. The Empress felt the explosion through the energy currents. She smiled. Then she unleashed everything. Her power erupted outward in a massive crimson storm. Enemy ships split apart. Engines died. Weapons melted. She moved like lightning, like a star burning at full brilliance. Within minutes, the traitor fleet was gone, erased. The sky fell silent. The human who changed the MPRE when Ethan returned to the flagship. Bruised and exhausted, the children ran to him, wrapping their arms around his waist. "You saved us," the younger one said softly. "You saved everyone," the older child added proudly. Ethan laughed weakly. "Just doing my part." The Empress approached him, her eyes glowing softly, not with power, but with gratitude, in front of every soldier on the ship. She placed her hand over her heart. Then she bowed. Not the small bow she gave before. A deep, full bow, one reserved for heroes of the Dominion. "Ethan Thorne," she said, her voice steady, "you saved the Crimson Throne. You saved my children. And you saved me." Every soldier in the room bowed to him. The children held his hands, and the Empress spoke the words that would echo across galaxies. "From this day onward, Ethan Thorne is under my protection and my trust." The galaxy had changed forever because one human chose to feed to starving children.